In 9 days, free speech could change forever because we could have on our hands a Supreme Court case that challenges our ability to speak freely on social media. This is an update to the case where the Biden administration has been begging the courts to please let us keep censoring social media. We did it so well during the pandemic. We love it. We're drunk on that power. We need to keep going. Now, again, this is an update to the case brought by Missouri and Louisiana attorneys general. And in July, Judge Terry Doughty ruled that the Biden administration had violated all of our First Amendment rights by working directly with social media to censor speech about COVID and other topics. He ruled the government cannot do that anymore. So the Biden administration appealed, saying, please repeal this ruling. We need to keep doing that. We want to censor American speech. And we got a ruling just last Friday. The court gave them 10 days before the ruling goes into effect to see if they want to appeal it to the Supreme Court. My guess is that they do. They want to do this. But the ruling did mostly uphold the edict that the government should not be working with social media to censor speech. But it's very specific. I want to take you through it because I want you to see what our own government is arguing it should be able to do to us. It's amazing. I mean, this is the year 2023, and the federal government is trying to argue in the courts for the power to censor speech. This is our most basic freedom, and we need to see what they're doing. So here is the ruling, the court ruling on what the government is doing. This is sort of their summary, that the plaintiffs argued that the government had been doing this big, bad First Amendment abuse. They said, we agree. The government should not be doing this. They showed examples such as this. Here is one social media being reached out by the government saying, hey, I don't think we're saying you should remove vaccine hesitancy, but it's reasonable to slow it down. Why is that?
What's the difference? Slow it down.
Yeah. Here's a government official explaining that, hey, other social media companies seem to be able to get this right. What's wrong with you? They're sort of playing the bad dad here. Like, other people, other companies are doing exactly what we say. Why can't you? They also point out, now this is all from the opinion, from the final ruling of these judges. So every time we get a ruling, we see all these examples of how bad the government's been. Here's another one. The government succeeded in having a video removed from the Louisiana Department of Justice. The Department of Justice had just put up a video about people protesting COVID mandates, and the federal government removed it. The government argued that, that's because states don't have First Amendment rights. Here's their argument based on that. The courts did not agree. The government had also argued, hey, you know what? No harm, no foul, because Twitter doesn't censor COVID information anymore, so that harm doesn't apply. The court didn't go for that either. The court rightly pointed out that just because they're not doing it anymore doesn't mean they won't do it in the future over future topics, and probably they still are. Now, this I think is so interesting. They heard testimony from Dr. Jay Bhattacharya and other individuals saying they had been kicked off Twitter, and then when they got back on Twitter, they had been sort of trying to behave, walking on eggshells so that they don't get kicked off again. That very behavior of self-censorship, the court ruled, is injury in fact. So If you are kind of dancing around like we do every stinking day here on this show, because we know that censorship complex is big, that is sort of you having your First Amendment rights violated by this very fact. The fact that you continue to censor yourself because you know the rules, because you know the censorship complex is in place. That's me right now.
So that's like, literally an injury. I mean, we do that every day on this show.
Yes.
We do that every day on the show because we're like, okay, are we allowed to say that? I mean, thank God we're on Rumble as well because there's, it's free speech.
Right.
But we think about, oh my God, if we put this in the title, if we put this in the description, if we say this particular thing, or Philip and I go back and forth on like, can we show this particular footage?
Yeah.
Can we show this rubble? Can we show what actually happened after this terrorist attack? We get age restricted, limited, demonetized. Every day it's a struggle.
Yeah.
That is so under this, That's sufficient injury.
This is injury in fact that our First Amendment rights are being trumped on because we know that there is a censorship complex in place. And so we are dancing around free speech all the time. Like, we are the best dancers on the planet when it comes to this.
Yeah.
Now, here's the government arguing, this is not, I'm telling you that the government argued that the first ruling on this case was too broad, and they wanted to redefine some of this prohibition, what they're not allowed to do. Here is what they still can do. They still can sort of follow up with social media. They can request content reports. They can be, say to be on the lookout. What they can't do is specifically say, don't do these things, or remove this speech, or slow down this speech, or we don't like this speech. This applies to the White House, the Surgeon General, the CDC, and the FBI. Those were the worst offenders. The NIAIH, Fauci's organization, the State Department, and the Department of Homeland Security, they said those should not be in this group. Here's them sort of removing them, saying, we don't have enough to pin on these guys, and so they sort of should be disgrouped from this. But other agencies, yes, they coerced, encouraged, and violated First Amendment rights. The FBI, yes, absolutely they did. This is saying we find that they did that. In fact, they did that very successfully. Take a look at this. They did it with a success rate of at least 50% of the time. When they wanted something taken down, it happened. The CDC, yes, absolutely. They coerced and encouraged and violated. That's the ruling on that. Same for the White House. Now, here is the final say that they cannot do. They no longer can, they sort of redefined, they shall take no action, formal or informal, to coerce or encourage censorship of speech. So this is as it stands now, 10 days until that ruling. What do you think? Will the courts take it up or not? Now, whether or not they take it to the Supreme Court, that's no guarantee the court will pick it up. I'm inclined to think they will. They want this so badly they can taste it. They had a taste of this power, and they do not want to give it up. So let me know what you think. This was applied not just to COVID. It was applied to topics such as Russian disinformation, Hunter Biden, elections, current questions about gender ideology. All of these things, they want it. So let us know what you think.
Power. Yeah, let us know in the comments below what you think about this. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.